The shocking secret of Samson and Delilah. How seduction brought down a mighty hero. Few knew what truly happened that night. In the shadows of ancient ruins, whispers lingered, secrets were buried. The air crackled with anticipation. Was this the place where love turned to treachery? Samson, a man of unmatched strength, feared nothing, except for the enchanting Delilah. Her eyes, pools of temptation, held a power only known to the divine. They had met in the valley of Sorek, a land painted with both beauty and betrayal. In those days the Israelites were caught in a tumultuous struggle. Philistines loomed like dark clouds over their lives. Samson was their champion, a warrior gifted by God, set apart from birth. His hair, long and uncut, symbolized the covenant with the Almighty. It was more than just a style, it embodied his strength, his identity. Yet, as the saying goes, the heart is a treacherous beast. Delilah, a woman of unmatched poise, saw in him not merely strength but a conquest. Surrounded by stones stained with history, she played a deadly game of seduction. With each tender word and lingering touch, tension grew. Samson felt it deep within, an intoxicating mix of vulnerability and desire. Would he share the secret of his strength? As the night unfolded, the air thickened with uncertainty. Was Delilah truly enamored, or merely a pawn in a greater scheme? The Philistine rulers had approached her, offering gold, tempting her to expose Samson. Torn between passion and loyalty, she grasped at shadows. The struggle within her mirrored a looming storm. Hearts raced, pulses quickened. Meanwhile, the storied pillars of the temple loomed large in the distance, a reminder of what was at stake. Would Samson's secret slip through his lips like a whispered prayer? Would he be ensnared by the enchanting web Delilah spun so expertly? The biblical tales spoke of miracles, yet this felt different, an unsettling fusion of love and betrayal. Each moment was fraught with tension. The night held its breath, as illusions danced before closed eyes. Samson's heart pounded, heavy with doubt. Every caress could be a prelude to disaster. Could there ever be a victor in this dance of seduction and deceit? Or was destruction inevitable once the secret was revealed? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. In the cool dawn, as the first rays of light began to break over the valley of Sorek, a deep silence enveloped the ruins where the events of the night before had unfolded. The shadows of betrayal lingered, absorbing the whispers of hearts still in turmoil. Samson stirred in his sleep, the echoes of his dreams filled with visions of strength and vulnerability intermingled in a dance only he could comprehend. He felt the weight of his dilemma, both alluring and tormenting, drawing him deeper into the labyrinth of his own spirit. Delilah, still cloaked in the night's seductions, had retreated to ponder her choices. In the quiet of her heart, she wrestled with the price of her actions. Gold shimmered in her mind, promises that could elevate her, but at what cost to her own soul. The Philistine rulers had appealed to her ambitions, yet tethered within was a flicker of something else, a growing uncertainty as to whom her ultimate loyalties lay. Was it with her people or with the man whose strength captivated her? The valley was alive, even in the early light. Birds chirped among the ruins, as if they sensed the tumult of human emotion woven into the very stones. Samson, wrestling with visions of power, remembered the stories told by his parents, tales of a destiny echoing from before his birth. The angelic visitation, the covenant of his strength, and the calling that set him apart were etched into his memories like sacred incantations. Yet now, as Delilah's image flashed through his mind, he felt more like a man who would face a tempest than one chosen to lead. Every flicker of Delilah's laughter held both beauty and suspicion. Could this be the woman destined to curse or bless him? As he recalled the moments they had shared, he felt a gnawing ache, a realization that love could very well become his undoing. Samson could not shake the unsteady balance that hung between them. Delight mixed with deceit, passion intertwined with peril. As the sun rose higher, casting light upon the ruins scattered across the valley, a vision crept into his consciousness. He wondered if the weight of his powers was too great for one man to bear. Each strand of hair resting upon his head was more than mere locks. They were woven with whispers of history and the legacy he was meant to protect. In the meantime, Delilah was pacing, her thoughts a tempest in their own right. The golden coins promised to her clinked in her mind but were nothing compared to the turmoil that surged within. Was she falling for the very man she had been sent to betray? It was a riddle wrapped in the complexity of the heart, a depth of feeling that writers struggled to express. Was it possible for two souls to find light in traumas so deeply rooted in trust turned to treachery? As the day moved on, Samson gathered his thoughts to confront Delilah. He could feel the divine strength coursing through his veins, yet an equally potent fear gnawed at the edges of his resolve. Would revealing his secret shatter the fragile bond they had woven in the night? What realization would dawn if he were to risk everything for what could so easily be lost? And so, he approached her, the air heavy with the tension of unspoken words. Yet as their eyes met, a spark of uncertainty clashed with undeniable chemistry. In that moment, the weight of both desire and dread filled the space between them. What would happen when truth and temptation collided? Would they stand united in their choices, or would a single confession unravel the very fabric of their connection? As they braced for their fateful conversation, a question lingered in the air, teetering on the precipice of revelation. Could love truly blossom in the midst of betrayal, or was it destined to perish in the darkness of deceit? In the heart of the valley, a strange stillness settled between Samson and Delilah as they stood, suspended between the past and the future. The sun continued to rise, casting long shadows that seemed to echo the conflict brewing within them. As Samson summoned the courage to speak, he felt the divine strength within him rumble like a lion awakening from slumber. It was a strength that had thrived in his solitude, yet now it was woven with an enigmatic vulnerability. "Delilah," he began, his voice steady but filled with an undertone of hesitation. He observed the way her expression transformed, a delicate dance of curiosity and wariness. They were bound together by a force neither truly understood, and in that shared silence, the unspoken words festered like an open wound. "What is it, Samson?" she replied, her eyes searching his, hungry for truth but apprehensive of the revelation that could fracture the fragile peace they had created. "Do not keep me waiting in the dark." He felt the weight of their intertwining destinies pressing upon him. Samson took a deep breath, feeling the wind brush his skin as if even nature conspired to witness this moment. "You know of my strength, but there is more to it than mere muscle and might. I have been set apart by a promise, a divine covenant that flows through my blood and binds me to a purpose greater than myself." Delilah absorbed his words, her heart racing. Beneath the allure of deception lay a genuine curiosity about the man standing before her. "And what is this promise to which you cling?" He hesitated, contemplating the depth of his confession. Each strand of hair upon his head shimmered with significance, the secrets and sacredness of his identity revealed in such a simple act of vulnerability. Finally he spoke. "My unshorn hair is my strength. It is the symbol of my devotion to God and the source of the power that has allowed me to conquer against insurmountable odds." At that moment, Delilah's breath quickened, the world around her fading as the implications of his words settled in. Could every moment they shared, every whispered laugh, have been cloaked in this monumental secret? A flicker of awareness ignited within her, intertwining fear and fascination. "But what of me, Samson? What happens if your strength is lost? What will become of us?" With every beat of her heart, a silent storm raged, as if she could hear the echoes of the Philistines approaching, urgent, restless, and hungry for the knowledge that would grant them victory over the mighty hero. Would she be their puppet or ally, forever entwined in the fragile dance of loyalty and betrayal? Pain gripped her soul as the allure of riches flickered in her mind's eye, battling against the genuine emotions that had grown between them. Was she truly prepared to sever the bond she had begun to cherish? Even as Samson's resolve was laid bare, he sensed the dawning realization in her eyes. The choice before them was no longer simply one of loyalty versus betrayal. It became a revelation of their character, a question of who they were meant to become. The air thickened with anticipation and fear. Neither of them wished to face the shadows of their decisions, yet here they stood in the precipice of choice, tracing the delicate balance between love and treachery. Delilah! He spoke again, softer now, seeking to bridge the gulf that fear had created. The sincerity in his voice pressed against her heart. The truth we share could forge a new path for us, or it could sever us completely. What do you seek in the depths of your heart? And as they stood there, gazes locked and hearts racing, they were left grappling with a stark truth: was true love capable of weathering the turmoil of opposing destinies, or would it break under the strain of secrets and betrayal? A question hung, laden with urgency. In a world ignited by desire and peril, could vulnerability become the anchor they needed, or would it be the very thing that led them to ruin? The morning sun climbed higher, illuminating the valley with its golden light, casting a warmth that seemed to seep into the bones of the earth. It was a serene contrast to the tempest that brewed between Samson and Delilah, where the air crackled with unspoken truths and the weight of unchosen paths. Each moment stretched into eternity as the two stood facing one another, the past a specter and the future an unfurling scroll. Samson, Delilah finally breathed, so softly it almost vanished into the rustle of the wind. What if I seek the truth but find only darkness? What if I am not worthy of the strength that you speak of? Her voice trembled, and she turned her head slightly, avoiding his penetrating gaze, as if the intensity could scorch her soul. He stepped closer, the soft crunch of gravel beneath his feet echoing in the open space, breaking the silence. You are not merely a vessel for my strength, Delilah. In your curiosity, you hold the power of your own, a different kind of strength. He could see the flicker of hope and doubt within her eyes, a delicate dance of shadow and light. As if drawn by an unseen force, their hands found each other, hesitantly intertwining. Samson felt the warmth of her palm against his and sensed a shared vulnerability, a connection that transcended the chaos surrounding them. The fate of my strength is bound to the heart that I choose to nurture, he continued, compelled to dive deeper into the truth that held them captive. Yet, within that choice lies a peril that we must confront together. Delilah closed her eyes briefly, feeling his sincerity wrap around her like a cloak against the chill of uncertainty. But what do I bring to this union? I have been a keeper of secrets, a weaver of deception. If I betray you, what remains? Her voice cracked under the weight of her introspection. The question is not what you bring, but what you choose to become, he replied, each word resonating with a divine clarity. Will you choose to be the light that guides me, or the darkness that entraps you? The promise of our future lies not in the neglect of the past but in the prospect of redemption. Together, we can redefine our destinies. Samson's boldness surged as he spoke, emboldened by the vulnerability they shared. Yet in the corner of his mind lingered the caution of the threats that loomed ahead: the Philistines, relentless in their pursuit, lurking like shadows ready to snatch away the precious truth that had been unveiled between them. In that very moment, they were two souls standing on the precipice of mutual decision, where even the air seemed to hold its breath. What if love is not enough? Delilah whispered, the question piercing through the morning's quietude. What if our coming together is a path to destruction, for both of us? Then we must be greater than that which seeks to divide us, Samson responded, feeling the urgency of their entwined fates rally within him. We can unearth a purpose in this alliance, a purpose that allies our strengths against any foe. Perhaps it is not the answers we seek but the questions we dare to voice that will illuminate the way forward. Delilah opened her eyes, a maelstrom of emotion swirling within her. Determination flickered like a flame seeking to ignite her soul, and she was captivated by the vision of what could potentially grow from their connection. Yet she remained tethered to the fear that loomed at the edges of her consciousness, the allure of betrayal that promised safety, wealth, and acceptance from her people. As they stood together, Delilah began to ponder the depth of her true desires. Could she forge a path that transcended her past and defied the expectations of loyalty and deceit? Could she, in truth, be the light Samson encouraged her to embrace? The uncertainty hummed between them, a reverberation of their intertwined spirits dancing on the edge of possibility. The sun cast long shadows on the ground, a foreshadowing of choices yet to be made, moments yet to unfold. Could the power of their connection defy the fate that others sought for them? Or was the weight of expectation destined to shatter their fragile alliance? In this valley of secrets, they stood straddling the precipice of choice, yearning for clarity amid the chaos. Their hearts drummed a rhythm of hope, yet uncertainty loomed like clouds on the horizon, promising a storm that could change everything. In this moment, they were left questioning, in a world filled with the enticing pull of desires, how do we discern the paths that lead to redemption from those that lead to ruin? As the sun continued its ascent, casting a more brilliant glow across the valley, the tension between Samson and Delilah thickened, and the air smelled sweetly of impending change. They stood there, fingers entwined, each wrestling with the fathomless depths of their own hearts. The weight of what lay ahead pressed upon them, a burden both heavy and yet transformative. "Samson," Delilah said, pulling back slightly to meet his gaze more fully. "You speak of strength and choices, yet here I stand, a woman molded by deception. How can I be trusted to guide you toward the light when so much of who I am has thrived in shadows?" The vulnerability in her voice carved an opening into the depths of her soul, where fear and longing labored in equal measure. He regarded her intently, lips pressed together in thought. "It is not the deceit of the past that defines us, Delilah, but the intent that can shape our future. Trust is a paradox both fragile and fierce. In this moment, together, we may yet forge a trust anew. It will not come easily, nor will it be without sacrifice." "Sacrifice," she echoed softly, the word hanging between them like a solemn vow. "What would you have me sacrifice? My past? My ties to my people? My safety?" Her voice trembled, reflecting the profound conflict within her. The remnants of her past clung to her like shadows, reluctant to disperse. "Not all ties must be severed," he replied, his heart heavy with understanding. "Yet some burdens must be laid down for the sake of what is yet to be. The strength we discover in one another may very well illuminate an entirely new path, one that neither of us expected. A light that may guide our choices and protect us from those who do not wish us well." Delilah's brow furrowed as she mulled over his words, the flicker of hope battling the weight of her fears. "Then how do I reconcile the lurking danger that follows you? My people, they hunger for your downfall, and every moment I stand beside you feels like a betrayal against my kin." "Your kin may not see the depth of what we hold," Samson said, his voice steady amidst her confusion. "They know only the fight for survival, the fear of your choices. Change is frightening, and in fear they seek to control. Yet perhaps your voice can challenge the tide. What if you become a bridge rather than a shield?" For a brief heartbeat, time seemed suspended as she considered this newfound possibility. A bridge? She pondered aloud, images of warriors and warriors dancing in her mind. How could she transform herself into a conduit of peace between two worlds so disparate? The notion was tantalizing yet perilous. "Yes," he urged, eyes sparkling with fervor. "A bridge formed through understanding. Let your heart not focus solely on what you have to lose, but on what you can gain, a unity that may transcend our differences. In that pursuit, true strength resides." Delilah felt a stirring within her, a burgeoning desire to rise above the chaos that encircled them. "Will you stand with me, then, against the odds? Even as your people press against you, and I feel the weight of my choice threatening to consume me? I will," he vowed, a promise etched with sincerity. "Together we will face every storm and shadow that dares to intrude. In this sacred trust, we will carve our own narratives, and if the world does not support us, we shall be stronger than that rejection." But as they held each other's gaze, the relentless shadows of doubt crept back into Delilah's mind. "But what about the whispers? The temptation to betray you? What if I am swayed by the promise of acceptance, and lose sight of this path you speak of?" In that unstable moment, the air shifted, permeating with an undeniable truth. "You cannot predict how the winds of this life shall blow," Samson spoke softly. "What matters is what you choose when faced with those stormy winds. In this union, there is boundless strength, and trust may bloom if nurtured. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, bathing the valley in its rich brilliance, Samson and Delilah stood suspended in their shared hope and uncertainty, each battling their own demons as the world around them whispered of fate and destiny. The question lingered in the air, heavy with portent, in a tangled web of desires and expectations: how can we remain true to ourselves while weaving the fragile threads of trust with another? As the day deepened, shadows lengthened, drawing a curtain across the valley as sunlight danced upon the earth. Samson and Delilah remained entwined, a fragile sanctuary amidst the encroaching darkness. The promise of their newfound bond was still nascent, and the burden of their past weighed heavily on both of them. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, carrying soft whispers that seemed to echo their own uncertainty. "What if the strength within you is as much a burden as it is a gift?" Delilah asked, breaking the silence. "I have witnessed how your power inspires fear and envy, and those who envy will stop at nothing to see you falter. Is it possible that your might has become a curse?" Samson turned his gaze toward the horizon, thoughtful. "Strength, Delilah, is not without its shadows. It may protect, but it can also isolate. I have been swallowed by my own reputation, lauded as a hero yet hunted as a beast. My power is intertwined with the purpose I struggle to understand." He looked back at her, fire glimmering in his eyes. "But in this moment, standing with you, I feel the weight lift, offering me clarity amidst the chaos." "But clarity sometimes comes at a price," she replied, her voice dripping with caution. "For I am torn between my love for you and my fear of my people's wrath should I choose to follow a path that invites their scorn." He reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "And who defines that wrath, Delilah? The people you know are driven by their fears. They see me only as a threat rather than as a man seeking his own truths. If you let fear dictate your choices, you may lose your own voice in the clamor." Delilah inhaled sharply, her heart racing. Could she truly step unflinchingly into a world where love and loyalty were constantly pitted against one another? "Then teach me, Samson. Show me how to stand firm in my truth, for I find myself torn. I wish to learn not only the strength within you but the strength within myself." "Together," he declared, the fervor building within, "we will learn. I will share my burdens, and you share yours. It is in the revelation of our truths that we shall grow stronger." As they settled into a fragile silence, the sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue over the land. Within that shimmering light, a strange tension, an unseen force drawing nearer, a reminder of the danger that always loomed over them. Samson felt it instinctively, the quickening of his senses. "We must be vigilant, my beloved. There are those who wish to exploit the very ground we stand upon. We cannot merely exist in our reverie, we must remain alert." "Alert, yes," Delilah echoed, "but not in fear. A bridge, you said. Perhaps this is where my strength can be born. If I am to navigate these treacherous waters, I must learn how to be a beacon rather than a barrier." Samson nodded, pride swelling within him. "You already are. The mere act of acknowledging the struggle is a step toward your truth." He furrowed his brow, the weight of their circumstances pressing upon him. "But Delilah, we must also be wary of one another's hearts. Temptations and secrets lie beneath the surface. If you harbor any lingering connections from your past, they may unravel everything we seek to build." Her breath caught in her throat, the weight of his words anchoring her to the moment. "What if my past comes back to haunt me? Not just the actions I take, but those I might betray. We will wrestle with those shadows together," he promised, the conviction ringing in his voice. "But trust, too, emerges in the petty betrayals of our hearts. What if you discover your truest self lies in the confrontation of those past choices?" Delilah stood arrested by this challenge, her mind propelling forward into a realm of what could be lost, or what could be won. As the last rays of daylight filtered through the trees, she thought of those she'd left behind, their expectations, their fears, their ties. "I want to guard against betrayal, yet it flickers like a flame inside me," she whispered. "If I am to be your bridge, must I confront those I've once called kin?" Samson studied her, understanding the gravity of her dilemma. "To embrace the journey before us, we may have to navigate the treacherous paths of loyalty and sacrifice. Do not fear the whispers that arise. Let them push you toward your own heart's desire." The echoes of his words hung in the air as darkness began to envelop them, punctuated only by the quiet stirring of the night. Each wrestled with the anticipated storms ahead, both pulled into the spiritual mystery of what lay just beyond their grasp. The question remained unresolved: how will the ties of the past shape the choices we make in a future we can scarcely envision? As twilight descended, cloaking the valley in a modest, muted glow, Samson and Delilah remained rooted in their exchange, an unwavering stillness holding them together. The sounds of the evening chirping crickets and distant rustling leaves formed a tranquil backdrop, yet within their hearts, turbulence brewed. Delilah took a step back, her brow furrowed in contemplation. "We speak of bridges and burdens, yet shadows linger, Samson. What if my trust is betrayed not only by others but by myself? What if I falter and let fear dictate my actions?" "Fear is but a fleeting ghost," he assured her, his voice steady. "A lesson whispered across the generations. It fades when confronted with truth. If you are to venture into your past, remember that you carry a strength forged from experience, not solely from your lineage." "But is it enough?" Delilah's eyes glistened with unshed tears, trying to navigate the very essence of who she was against the tumult of expectation. "Can a heart marked by past betrayal still find redemption?" Samson stepped closer, his presence a reassuring force. "Redemption is an alchemy of transformation. Each choice made in sincerity can turn ashes into wisdom. You will not be the sum of those who have wronged you. Instead, let their shadows illuminate the path toward your own light." In that moment, Delilah reflected upon the voices of her past, the familiar melodies of her upbringing intertwined with a message that weighed heavily with expectation. She thought of the family ties woven with obligation, sparking a question that haunted her heart: what if the loyalty bred from love becomes shackled under the burden of their desires? A flicker danced in Samson's gaze, an understanding surfacing. Loyalty and love, when entangled, often dance on a precipice. But you must discern which ties are shackles and which are sacred. Sometimes shadows take the shape of duty, cloaked in purpose, yet what lies beneath may be a tempest stirring within. Delilah nodded, emboldened by his words but still shadowed by her uncertainties. "And what if my path entwines with the very fears you, too, must confront? Should my heart align with your battle against them? Will it pin me down or uplift me?" "We are kindred in struggle," Samson affirmed, his voice steady like the mountain paths they would traverse. "We must embrace this complexity together. Look not to the tumult but to the bond we forge in trust. In the cauldron of vulnerability, we may find not just our truths but the resonance of our souls." As the stars began to peek through the velvet sky, their light flickering like distant promises, a deeper realization dawned upon them. Magnified by the cosmic stillness, perhaps the secrets they clung to were manifestations of their identities, woven intricately into the fabric of their beings. Delilah sighed, her heart conflicted yet resolute. "And what of the truth of your strength, Samson? How do I navigate the might that you wield, laden with the stories that may both uplift and overwhelm you?" Samson looked into her eyes, a wellspring of sincerity bubbling forth. "The gift of strength must be embraced with humility, for its power remains meaningless without purpose. I wrestle with the burden of it daily. The ancient echoes of my legacy often threaten to consume me. Must I choose between the legacy I inherit or the one I create anew?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy with expectation. Each could feel the weight of their choices laced into their destinies. Within the fabric of their dialogue were threads of mutual vulnerability, binding them further, even as shadows loomed at the edges of their thoughts. As night deepened, a stillness settled, yet inside the hearts of Samson and Delilah swirled unresolved threads. What truths would they unearth by confronting their inner fears, and how intertwined would their destinies become before the dusk gave way to a storm of choices they could scarcely foresee? As the night enveloped them, the whispers of the wind carried an ancient resonance, a haunting song of paths yet traversed. Samson and Delilah stood on the precipice of a truth veiled in shadows, each heartbeat exacerbating the weight of their unspoken fears. Delilah, searching the depths of Samson's gaze, felt a shiver at the recalling of his legend, the strength of one who had torn apart a lion with his bare hands, the one blessed with long hair, the symbol of a covenant not merely with God, but with himself. "Samson," she murmured, her voice barely a breath, what weighs upon you? The stories that people tell, though they lay the foundation of your identity, or do they mask the true man behind the myths? He replied slowly, as if engraving each word carefully upon the night. Every tale harbors a kernel of truth, and yet it is easy to become lost among the layers of fabrications. I am not only what they believe me to be. I grapple with the strengths and limitations that both shape and confine me. Who am I without these legends, without the strings of expectation that bind my destiny to their dreams? A flicker of understanding illuminated Delilah's heart, illuminating the paths of self-doubt. Then perhaps, she suggested cautiously, we are not bound to the roles cast upon us. Rather, we are explorers of the uncharted spaces within ourselves. Can we not forge a new tale of bravery together, one that honors our pasts but does not constrain us? A moment of stillness settled upon them, like the hush before a storm. Despite their shared resolve, the air vibrated with uncertainty. But what if the choices we make, Samson pondered aloud, bind us more closely to the burdens of our past? Can liberation arise from the very fears we wish to leave behind? Delilah's brow furrowed in contemplation, tracing the tendrils of her own history. The chains of my past clank loudly, Samson. My loyalty has often been dictated by those who sought to claim me as their own. Their desires waged war upon my will. In seeking my truth, do I risk alienating those who raised me? How can I honor my lineage while breaking free of its weight? His voice softened, like the ebbing tide. There lies a delicate dance in honor and freedom, my dear Delilah. Perhaps, to break free requires not an act of severing, but a gentle untangling. Trust in your voice, for it carries a wisdom that may lead you towards both truth and reconciliation. We shape our own destinies when we dare to listen to the whispers of our hearts. A sigh escaped Delilah's lips, the tension between her heart and the obligations tethering her eased ever so slightly. Samson, is it possible to be both courageous and vulnerable? To stand firm in my own identity, yet be open to the connections and relationships that may carry me toward new revelations? Indeed, he breathed, the moonlight glinting off his eyes with a flicker of hope. The beauty of vulnerability lies in its power to connect us more deeply. When we reveal our fears, we create space for others to shed their masks of perfection. It is through shared experiences that we showcase our truest selves, yet even within the growing warmth of understanding, the shadows flickered in the periphery. Delilah questioned softly, but what happens when those fears cross paths with desires that could jeopardize our tether? What if, in unveiling our truths, we unravel ties that may prove far too consequential? As the stars glittered above them, a shiver coursed through the air, weighty with portent. The lives they lived, entwined with choices yet unveiled, pressed heavily upon their hearts. Each word, a step into the unknown; each glance, a deeper commitment to discover what lay beyond the veils of their intertwined destinies. In the silence that followed, a truth loomed large, echoing the intricate dance of light and shadow. In facing their fears and desires, would they emerge fortified or fractured? What unknown currents would their revelations send through the legacy they sought to create, and how would those currents reshape the bonds they dared to explore? In the quiet that enveloped them, a tension began to take form, as if the very fabric of their conversation wove an unbroken thread between the realms of courage and doubt. The stars seemed to pulse with the shared weight of their uncharted journey, illuminating paths yet to be traveled. Samson reached out, his strong fingers entwining with Delilah's. As we navigate these tumultuous waters, we must remain cautious of the currents beneath the surface. What if our exploration leads us to a place of dangerous truths? What if the revelations we uncover not only alter our stories but also threaten to shatter the loyalties we hold dear? Delilah felt the stirring of contradiction within her, fear mixed with an intoxicating desire for authenticity. What is the price of truth if it comes at the expense of love? I've grown accustomed to masks that protect me from the judgments of others. But to peel them away, could that not expose me to the very vulnerabilities I wish to avoid? As if summoned by her words, the night air shifted, pregnant with foreboding. Samson turned toward the horizon, where the first hint of dawn teased the darkness with its glow. Perhaps the dawn speaks of discovery, Delilah. There is power in laying bare our souls, yet we may need to tread carefully. The gods under whom I was blessed have sharpened my strength, but within it lies a paradox. The might that protects can also betray. Betray? Delilah echoed, apprehension knotting in her stomach. What betrayal could come from strength? The greatest danger lies in the temptation of our power, to wield it against those we love, he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. To embrace my strength without understanding its true nature may lead to destruction. Not just for my enemies, but for the very ones I cherish. What good is a hero without the wisdom to temper his might? Delilah watched as the sun began to rise, casting long shadows that danced outstretched before them. So, you fear your own legend? The tales that speak of your courage also risk painting you as a monster if used poorly. This is a fear I understand. How can we wrestle with our identities, shaped by past actions, yet yearn to create a future that reflects truth rather than illusion? Samson's gaze sharpened with insight. We summon our strength not from the stories others tell, but from the truth we unearth within ourselves. Courage means moving forward into the unknown, even as we tremble. When we dare to embrace our complex selves, our fears, our strengths, and the flaws that dwell within us, then perhaps we can wield our stories as shields rather than swords. As the sun climbed higher, Delilah felt a rush of understanding, as if a light was illuminating the very depths of her doubts. But what if those who have known us change direction in light of these revelations? Could the shimmering hope we build carry with it the risk of isolation? This question follows every pursuit of truth, Samson replied, his tone grave yet contemplative. And the answer may evade us until we bleed our truths openly. But I sense that our determination to connect even in vulnerability can weave new bonds, igniting understanding where walls once loomed. Delilah took a breath, feeling the pulsing tension within her transform into something almost radiant. Then we will become not just characters shaped by expectation, but co-authors of our destiny. Yet I cannot ignore the flicker of fear that stirs within me. What if this desire to craft a new tale leads us not to unity, but to destruction? With the first full rays of dawn breaking across the landscape, casting warmth upon them, Samson tightened his grip. Even the most fearsome storms can give rise to fertile ground. But as we step towards this unknown journey, both of us must remain anchored. For our strength lies not in singular glory but in the duality of shared faith. As the sun spilled its golden light all around, a quiet resolve seeped into the cracks of their fears, yet the looming question grew. Did the pursuit of their authentic selves herald a new dawn, or would the forces at play sever the fragile ties that held their hearts together? What truths remained hidden, waiting to intertwine with their burgeoning strength, and what shadows would they reveal along the way? As the horizon blazed with the light of a new day, Samson and Delilah stood entwined, the weight of their unresolved fears heavy upon their shoulders. The morning sun flowed around them like a river of golden promise, illuminating the path that lay ahead, a path not just forged by their own hands, but shaped by the choices made and the truths yet unveiled. Samson, Delilah said, looking up into his azure gaze. Can we truly navigate the currents of our destinies while honoring the shadows of our pasts? A plea echoed in her voice, for she now understood the fragility of their bond, the intertwining paths that could either uplift them or plunge them into deeper darkness. Every journey worth taking is laced with fear and uncertainty, he replied, lowering his forehead to hers, feeling the warmth of her spirit merge with his own. The question is whether we allow that fear to steer our course or empower it to become a catalyst for rebirth. We were not merely born of flesh, but of purpose. In that moment of quiet communion, the air thickened with an unexpected weight and ancient promise murmuring between the realms of what was spoken and unspoken. While shadows had lingered over them, the light softened their contours, promising a hope that transcended human expectation. Perhaps, Delilah said, her heart racing as clarity seeped into her veins, we may find strength not solely in our might, but in our willingness to confront our fears. My illusions, the disguises I wore, they no longer serve me. I choose to break through the chains that tie me to past betrayals, regardless of the price. Samson's heart swelled with pride and tenderness. And I stand with you, my love, ready to weave our fates together. Let us forge a bond that stands against the tempest, one strengthened by truth and vulnerability. In that shared resolve, a deeper understanding unfolded. Their journey was not simply a battle against enemies, but a reconciliation with their inner selves. As the sun climbed higher, casting away the oppressive darkness of night, Delilah felt something within her shift, a lightness blooming where heaviness had once thrived. Let us embrace our vulnerabilities, Samson. In doing so, we may pave a path toward reconciliation not just with ourselves but with those we love, and who may only see the reflection of their own fears in us. Samson nodded, the fire of determination igniting anew in his core. And perhaps, through our union, we may create a bridge, a conduit of understanding that extends beyond our personal struggles, a way to foster hope where despair may threaten. Together, they began to walk deeper into the valley, the strengthening sunlight illuminating the ruins around them. Each step echoed a promise, the promise of renewal, of understanding, and a chance to redirect the tides of their legacies. Yet as they contemplated the journey ahead, a herald of shadows approached. Figures cloaked in the identity of betrayal loomed at the edges, eager to exploit the cracks in their resolve. The Philistines, sensing a falter in the mighty Samson, schemed to sever the bond that blossomed between him and Delilah. Delilah could feel the pulse of danger thrumming through the air as she grasped Samson's hand tighter. "We must step carefully, my love," she warned. "Our journey is shrouded in uncertainty. The past perhaps holds dark secrets that dare to ensnare us when we least expect it." His gaze pierced through the impending darkness, resolve emanating from his very essence. "Fear not the whispers of the past, for they echo the lessons of survival. Together, we shall stand firm, and our truths both spoken and unspoken will remind us of the strength we embody. As they walked, attention thickened, the air crackling with anticipation of the tests that lay before them. Would their newly forged alliance withstand the storms brewing in the land? Could love, light, and mutual vulnerability become shields against the treachery awaiting them? As dusk settled upon the valley, its cool embrace offered solace, yet the atmosphere heavy with impending conflict sent a shiver down their spines. Into this tempest they ventured, drawing from the wellspring of their intertwined spirits, determined to confront the darkness that sought to unravel them. In that defining moment, something shifted within Delilah, her recognition that came without proclamation, an inner awakening. She turned to meet Samson's gaze, her voice steady as she declared, "In seeking the truth, I have discovered a power I no longer fear. I choose to be the architect of my destiny, not just a pawn in the game of betrayal." "Then let us carve a new path," Samson replied, passion igniting his faith in her. "We will rise as champions of truth, casting light upon the shadows that try to bind us. Our legacies shall not be dictated by threat, but by the understanding we cultivate together." As the darkness of night embraced the valley, Samson and Delilah steeled themselves against the coming storm. They were no longer bound by their fears, but buoyed by the newfound realization that strength lay not only in power, but in love's capacity to overcome every treachery. On the brink of all that awaited, a fierce revelation brushed against their hearts. Love, resilient and fierce, is the greatest force of Allah, testament to the human spirit's ability to rise, not merely above conflict, but to transcend it, weaving together the fragmented paths of past, present, and future. And as they stood together on that significant threshold, there in the flicker of night, they penned the first lines of their authentic tale, a love story reborn through the strength of their choices, forever shining through the darkness. With hearts blazing bright, they invited each moment, ready to confront whatever challenges unfolded before them, bonded by resilience and hope. For in the sacred journey of truth, love laid its roots deep, passionately defying the shadows of betrayal, crafting a legacy of unwavering faith that would resonate through the ages. The end of one tale became the vibrant awakening of another, echoing a powerful truth across the landscape of humanity.